fascination, but it is something I've been thinking about. One of the things that sort of got me interested in this whole idea of owning your identity or being able to profit from your identity, being able to control the data that comes in and out of your identity, is this idea that it gives us agency. It gives us this ability to control our own lives. It gives us this ability to think about how we can take action in ways that we've never been able to sort of do before. Oh, there we go. See, I'm incompetent in some things for sure. So I think about blockchain voting because at some point in time, a while ago, I was the chair of the Forward Party of Minnesota. And at the time, the Forward Party was this sort of really interesting, sort of out-of-the-box thinking about how we can, approach political systems, how we can approach political parties. And so part of the solution at the time was this idea of blockchain. But at that time, we sort of think of it in terms of, investing in it primarily, right? The problem when we look at it in that way is that it sort of brings us to this thought that, is blockchain voting even possible? I mean, what kind of systems are we going to have? Oops. See, I haven't got the thing down. What kind of systems do we need to build or what kind of systems do we need to engage with so that we can have a blockchain voting system that serves the purpose of identity ownership? It serves the purpose of decentralization. It serves the purpose of automation. It serves the purpose of being able to not have nation states, being able to not have organizations, being able to not have people that can control the data that goes on. I mean, ultimately, that's the definition of decentralization. The ability to not have any single entity be able to control the databases, because ultimately blockchains are just bad databases. I mean, at their core, that's what they are. They don't even have enough storage to hold much. You have to have, storage outside of yourself. So, I mean, you start to think of it in terms of what is the current system we have. I mean, we've all gone through the recent election authority. You have to go into a voting location. You present yourself with your driver's license or some sort of ID, at least ideally. I've heard some stories already that it's not even necessary in some cases to present your ID. People vote for other people. They do all kinds of things that, I mean, it's untenable. It's a completely untenable system. So that's what we have. So the idea then is to think of what we can do to actually make it better, what we can do to make it more secure. So, this quote I think is a very good one. Public elections have unique security and privacy requirements much more stringent than those in other applications such as e-commerce, because election officials must always know exactly who is voting to verify eligibility, prevent double voting, but they must not be able to trace particular ballots to the individual voters that cast them. So, I mean, if you apply this standard to the present voting system, it's failing pretty bad. And so the idea is to build something that's better. Fraudulent activity, I've already had like 3 different conversations already about how some fraud has been being done with the voting system. And typically, if your side wins the election, you tend to trust the voting system, or you try to trust the election system, and if you lose, you tend to distrust it. So wouldn't it be nice if we could have a system where everybody trusts it equally, whether your side wins or loses, whatever it may be? So when I talk about an ideal voting system, it has to be decentralized. That's a big one because, again, you don't want an organization, you don't want someone to be able to change the information, control the information, knock out the nodes, whatever it is. 51% attacks. It needs to be automated. And obviously it needs to be trustworthy. So, I mean, we've talked about Bitcoin and its security and stuff like that. So we need a system that utilizes the same sort of functionality. So the idea is to build a blockchain system. Start by think of yourself as your identity. What do you hold? What are some of the things that we have, for example, in a digital ID wallet? What are some things that would give us agency? And so you have this thing called decentralized self-sovereign digital ID. If you think about the idea of not your keys, not your token, not your coin, it's the same sort of thing. What we're providing is the same sort of functionality with a typical wallet, like a Bitcoin wallet or an Ethereum wallet or whatever it is. But it's for digital, decentralized identification. So your keys, your ownership, and there's a lot of things that can go into it. So we're going to talk, you can put in social security numbers, you can put in driver's license, you can put in, I mean, theoretically, you could put in any sort of information there that is owned by you. Passport information, anything. And it's not just saying, this is something that it needs to interact with the government. I mean, not really. But the point is that this stuff is stored in private space in your device that you own the keys of. When we talk about voting via the phone, I mean, this is kind of the ultimate sort of solution to be able to do that. So the new system, the one that I'm proposing, basically starts, the one thing we can't do is we cannot come to this point where we do not have an interaction with the voting authorities. We cannot do it independent of them. When Brandon talks about, Brandon talked about change, the change of we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. So we come to this point where we have to engage the election authorities. We have to engage the governments. We have to engage the companies that are actually going to provide the permissions to actually vote, right? So we start on the highest level with the election authorities who build something that gives you permission to vote. In other words, it defines the permission set, right? And so that's sort of the public part of the permission set. So you might say, Bob has this ability to vote for this particular person at this particular time and in this particular place. So this is the interaction with the election authorities, with the government, right? So what they do then is provide what I'm calling a golden ticket, so which is a permission set, which gets pushed down to your digital ID, your self-sovereign digital ID. So your agency then is included with this permission set, which again, you own the keys of, right? I'm gonna just go forward through this just a little bit. So we don't talk too much about this concept of what a smart contract is or zero knowledge proof is or something like that. So the whole point of this particular system is to be able to use a set of rules that are defined in your private space that a smart contract can then execute based on that set of rules, right? So once this is what ultimately what smart contracts do, is they are a set of rules. For example, you can say a rule that says, in a smart contract, that says, you have this golden ticket. You have this permissions that has been established by the election authority, pushed down to you, and then you have this permission to actually do a vote, right? That is what's called a smart contract. It's a set of rules. And then this ability to actually use only that rule that gives you the permission to actually do the execution of the vote, so that the only thing that gets put on the public blockchain is this vote. For example, if you vote for Bob, but there's all kinds of other information in your private space, no one needs to know what that is. All that has to be done is a smart contract has to see that the rule is in existence, and then it can go ahead and execute on the rule and put your vote on the blockchain, which is a public space. So what I'm calling this is in the parlance of the work that I've been doing, it's a circuit. It's a circuit. It takes private space information, only as much as needed to actually do the execution, which in this particular case, it's the golden ticket. And then it's able to take the information and push it with the ZKP, they call it, I mean, it's actually called circuit, ZKP circuit, and push it to the public space, which is the blockchain. So your vote can be registered. So we have the sort of things that need to work together to actually make this work. And I think it's election authority, interaction, decentralized self-sovereign digital ID, a smart contract that can see the rules with the golden ticket, which is the permission sets, and then the ability to push the public block, to push the vote to the blockchain. I've been hearing for quite some time about this, we'll just put it on the blockchain, we'll just put these votes on the blockchain. I mean, part of the problem is that the public layer 1 blockchains are open protocols. You can go ahead and take a look at all of the transactions on the public blockchain. In this particular case, I've utilized mempool.space. So if you were to go and look at mempool.space, you'd see all the transactions coming through, and you can trace them. One of the other problems is the cost of the blockchain transactions are typically unpredictable, but can be high. So if we're going to build a system that has this ability to execute votes on chain, we need a system where we can predict what the fees are going to be, and that we can actually guarantee that a vote will be put on the blockchain in a timely manner. And sometimes these are typical, very hard problems. The other thing we need is this idea of decentralization. So we have this bill that was passed by the House of Representatives, typically called FIT 21. But one of the aspects of that FIT 21 bill is this thing called sufficient decentralization. And up until real recently, we haven't had an objective way to tell what decentralization is. And so I've just put a little URL in there that points to what's called the Edinburgh Decentralization Index. Just take a look, and you'll be able to see objective analysis of decentralization. The way that we can meet the criteria, permissions are defined by an organization. Election authority is pushed to an identity wallet and held in private voter room space. Private keys are fully owned by the individual. Multi-signatures are prohibited. Voter identity combined with info like voting districts, so that the ZKP circuit can prove the right place and time to vote. Smart contract witness permissions and credentials from a private space. I mean, ultimately what this means is that the smart contract has to follow the rules that are defined in it. And this particular system actually does that. So the other thing, I'll close on this. So this is not just a system that can do voting. It's a system that allows companies to interact with each other in ways that are not just monetary transactions. They're ways of being able to keep things secret, but yet knowing who you're interacting with without ZKP or without know your customer or I mean, in a nutshell, I think it's kind of revolutionary, this particular system, right? And I'm going to say this, and you guys probably might not even know what I'm talking about when I say this, but Bitcoin OS. And so, on that note, thanks so much for opportunity to speak this evening.